The last piece to this is reflection. In education, we're taught to be reflective practitioners. When I was a lowly undergrad, just starting out as a baby student teacher, I wrote in a journal every day. Dismissed my class, took them to the bus, went back to my desk in my very stuffy room, and started writing. Wrote down students' names, things I wanted to remember they did, something they did well, something I wanted to work on. Wrote down the failure. Maybe I had a science lab that went kablooey and there was, no way I was going to do it again. But I was taught the value of reflection. And it wasn't until recently being about 4 years ago, that resurfaced in my life, going, not only should you still be doing that as a teacher, but you should be asking your students to do it after every lesson. But not just as a check for understanding, you're getting a data point. It needs to be something where you're showing them. You are reflecting on your learning. You are being cognizant of the fact that you just learned something new, or of the fact that you already knew that, so how are you going to dig deeper? At home, that looks like maybe when you talk about their day, what you're doing is you're saying, so how's your day? Oh, fine, right? That's the standard answer. And then you say, okay, well, what made you smile today? And then they can really think. And if they say nothing, then their dig deeper moment is, well, why didn't I smile today? And it opens up conversation. Because of the setting of our school, we tend to be in partnership with parents, right? No student is an island, no family is an island, no teacher is an island. We all work together. We're all on the same team. So that reflection piece is something that our PECs and teachers and students and parents really all try to bring together. And so when I touch on that, I want to make sure that I tell you as parents, if that's who's watching, or fellow teachers, I think I have a couple in here, that reflection piece is beneficial, not just for your student, not just for you as a parent, but it's a great way to start a conversation. So George Couros goes on to talk about school versus learning. And I love this because I started my life in a brick and mortar school. I, in fact, still sometimes work in a brick and mortar school. And now I work in online learning. And because I get to sit on both sides of the scale, this list holds a special place in my heart. When George Couros was interviewing students, he asked them about school. And these were some of his answers he got. It's all just about reading. I have a schedule. Everything's done in a certain way. My teacher gives me my information. Things have to go in order. But then he asked students about learning. And they started talking about things like YouTube and things they love, and that when they learn something, they're doing something, and that it holds a place in their heart. And that when they start to learn something, it's because they have a question. And it's how they follow their passions. And a lot of times when they're learning something, it's because they're challenging something maybe they don't believe to be true. And that got me thinking a little bit about, is that true? When I walk into that brick and mortar school, does my classroom look in a sequential linear fashion? I don't think it does so much anymore. There's definitely moments, you can only do so much. And then I started to think, well, when I think about learning, does my learning look different? Is how I learn looking different than how I'm wanting to teach? And there's some validity here. But I'll tell you what this list did for me. It made me go, well, how can I turn mini lessons into YouTube tutorials? How can I make my students use the technology in the room not as a benchmark activity, but as something that they need to actually do and use and utilize it as a tool, not just something they get to play on? And then that spun me around to the work I do here with the Crystal College School. And I realized, well, this is the thing, this is the niche. When students learn online, they're given objectives and assignments. They're given questions to guide them. And in our particular setting, they're allowed to personalize that a little bit. but they can make it look a little bit more like learning. And they can make it feel more random, less linear. So I would like you all to keep this graphic in mind. It's easily accessible. I have cited George on here as it's his, but it's easily accessible online. And it's something to keep in mind as your students come home and talk to you about school, or as they come home with a project and they come home with that checklist. Be like, well, how do we turn this into your passion project? It's like, okay, yeah, you don't really want to do fractions today, but what's something you love that involves fractions? Takes a little bit more work, and it can stretch the brain, but in a good way. I have noticed some students will shy away from the learning if they're feeling tired. They just want to get the school done. It's not always a bad thing, but it does happen sometimes more than we like. Like, I'm just going to get this done really quick. I'll just write a paper. And it's like, oh, wait, but aren't you really interested in 3D printing? Shouldn't we maybe go find a 3D printer? So just one of those things to keep in mind as we watch our students.